Sakura Genesis is upon us. We are going to be previewing both the junior heavyweight version from Korakuen Hall and the Sumo Hall show coming up this weekend that features the big match between David Finlay and Hirooki Goto. We'll also be taking a look at Windy City Riot. So as we get into three pretty important shows on the New Japan calendar in the next week, we're going to be here to go over all of it with us. So with Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. The company has been on tour, but only one of those events has been on NJPW World, but we're going to talk about what we have seen there. They're well aware of when the cameras are on, when they are off. So most of these shows that were on the house show circuit passed by with mostly preview tags. We got a little bit of a taste of some angles there in Kofu and Yamanashi. But for the most part, Jeremy, we're just thinking ahead to Sakura Genesis. Two big nights coming up, and both should be interesting in their own ways.
We are on the road to Sakura Genesis. Basically, I forgot there was a show yesterday until I woke up and realized, oh, hey, yeah, there is a show. Hey, Robert Dinkins, where we riot? Get behind that. I'll be recapping the AEW Dynasty pay-per-view with Garrett Gonzalez on this channel on Sunday night. So
yeah,
thanks for the little plug there. So I watched a show, and you could have just skipped the show minus the main event. Frankly, from yesterday, there was a house show. That main event. There
were a couple of things there that are worth mentioning. Hello, Colin. Yes. Glad you're with us.
Hello. But I will say the main event yesterday made me feel like the show as a whole was worth my time.
Yeah, they had a real strong main event. And of course, this is, Yamanashi and Kofu and all that. That is Shingo Takagi's hometown. It's also the home prefecture of Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Both of them had singles matches on the show. Shingo finished up main evented with Hiroshi Tanahashi. This is the same building in which they had his 20th anniversary show last, I believe it was last summer or fall, I guess it was, when Shingo had his 20th anniversary, and they filled the place, about 1,600 people for that one. They had about half that for this show, but it was up from an equivalent show, which is the New Japan Cup in 2024. Mm-hmm. So not a special 20th anniversary for the hometown guy, but still up a little bit from where they had been last year. So I'm taking that as an encouraging sign. And, but yeah, Shingo was in the main event again, and it did okay. It did all right, drew all right, about 850 people there. So not bad, especially considering it was the middle of the week, right? So, and then Colin's asking, when is Sakura Genesis? Well, tomorrow morning, USA time, but tomorrow in Japan, April 4th, is going to be Sakura Junior Genesis, which is the Korakuen Hall show featuring both the junior heavyweight title and the junior heavyweight tag team titles. And then on Sunday, we'll be at Sumo Hall. We'll be back at Sumo Hall for the main shows, the main Sakura Genesis show, the traditional one that takes place at Sumo every year.
I've started to wanting to phrase it as the show will be on demand by the time you start your day on this day.
About there.
And then you can figure it out from there.
Yeah, that's probably about right. But yeah, that is coming up. So we're going to look at what happened here. Now, there one piece of news that happened.
Yes.
The inevitable took place. AEW has signed Kevin Knight. He is no longer ours. And we've been talking about this for a long time. There was no way in the world that the North American companies were going to skip out on this dude. He's too talented. He's too young. He has too much upside. And indeed, AEW has signed Kevin Knight. And so we will we'll have to say mostly goodbye to him. He might make occasional appearances, but we hear that all the time, and the guys never do. So it's one of those things where he is scheduled for a few more New Japan matches, a couple more at least. And then that's probably going to be mostly it. It looks like he has even gotten himself into the Owen Hart Cup because Jay White is hurt again.
Okay, so this is getting a little complicated. Kevin Knight lucked himself into a pay-per-view match with Will Ospreay because Jay White needed surgery on his hand. and he was the original guy meant for that spot. Kevin Knight looked great last night on AEW Dynamite in a tag match, almost like the prelim, like a New Japan prelim where they had two guys tag teaming with each other that were going to end up either on the same team or facing each other. It gave me strong like Road to vibes, the cup kind of thing. I have no inside information here, but there has been some scuttlebutt that makes me believe that Kevin Knight is not as done with New Japan as we would like to believe, and that Tony Khan and WWE both wanted him, and he went with AEW, but my understanding is, the way I'm reading the room, he's still got stuff he wants to accomplish in New Japan, and he knows that there's an avenue there. So we may have a little bit of Kevin Knight through the rest of the year, like Best of the Super Juniors, Super Junior Tag League.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, really, this is we hear this every time.
We do, but I don't know. I think there's something to be taken notice of the fact that Takeshita is at Sakura Genesis instead of the Dynasty pay-per-view this weekend.
Yeah, but he is under contract to both. I mean, he has two different contracts.
But if Kevin Knight is under contract to both, which we have not been confirmed that Kevin Knight isn't under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, we're assuming that it's just AEW that he has a contract with this year. So until we actually get confirmation that Kevin Knight didn't sign another contract and he doesn't have a dual contract, which if it's not like the homegrown guys in New Japan, Kevin Knight isn't a homegrown guy. Takeshita isn't a homegrown guy. This could be more common.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Takeshita is probably just simply a special case. I think Takeshita right now is on a level where the companies see him almost as a Kota Ibushi, where he can work for everybody. I don't know if Knight has the leverage that Takeshita might have in that situation.
I think there's a little bit of potential that they both feel that both companies can get something out of Kevin Knight. You look at that guy.
Well, they can borrow him from me, but
he's sure money when you look at him.
That's why I don't think the AEW is going to let him go anywhere else.
But
I mean, I keep in mind, I don't have a whole lot of faith that AEW is going to do a whole lot with him. I think he's going to end up in that shuffle of 200 guys on the roster right there. But I also don't think that they're just going to loan him out whenever New Japan wants him either. So
I think that they're like, okay, if the Best of the Super Juniors is in May, we have Double or Nothing coming up at that same pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, if Kevin Knight is bumped out of this Owen Hart tournament, he's got nothing going on for the rest of the tournament. He can be a one and done and be available for New Japan in the month of May, where they could really use him in that tournament. And then he comes back to New Japan or AEW in June through, August when the G1 is going, but he's got a featured match at Forbidden Door or something like that. And then there's a co-op there. And then going into the fall, you can figure it out, go back and forth, but that's a perfect amount of time where you're just kind of gradually easing the guy out. I don't think it's the case.
I'll say, I don't think they're going to give him like a pay-per-view match and then just not have him there for a month while he goes back and does Super Juniors. That would be strange, but AEW
Are you
does
kidding me?
things.
They do that shit all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're not good at booking. So
he lucked into this match. This was not part of the plan.
No, that's true. No, you're right. That is true.
He is going, if anything, he could have a Kyle Fletcher like uprise in just the rise in the ranks. But it's going to take some time and it's going to take some commitment. But in the meantime, it's like Fletcher was wrestling in Ring of Honor and he was doing other things for a long time before he really got underway in AEW. And I think instead of Ring of Honor,
Ring of Honor is AEW. I mean,
right. But he was intentionally not on AEW and he was on Ring of Honor for a long time before he was graduated into the Callis thing. There is a pathway here where I think Kevin Knight can be working elsewhere, but under an AEW contract. And when they want him, they have him.
I would love it,
but I'll
believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Because so many mouths to feed in AEW right now.
Yeah, I know. They're crashing into each other and catering. But the thing about Knight is, it just goes back to all these guys that have left, and then we haven't seen them since, really. And I'll believe it when I see it.
Now,
we got some comments here from the gang.
I just think it's a different case. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know if he has the pull to be a different case. I would love it. Again, I'd love it. But Fernando Zayas says Kevin Knight's going to be a huge star in AEW. Hope so.
Mhm.
I hope it is. And then War Hero 99. Good to see you, War Hero. Glad you're here. Kevin Knight needs a championship, he said.
What championship would you give Kevin Knight?
Yeah, good question. War Hero says Kyle to NXT. Well, maybe someday. Who knows? And Fernando just says, I have complete faith in AEW with Kevin Knight. He's part of the future of AEW. Complete
let me
faith.
ask you this. In AEW, would you have him tag with Kushida at all?
Are you asking me or the crowd out here?
And the audience? Like, with Kevin Knight, would you rely on familiarity or would you go completely new with him?
I think I'd probably do something new with him.
Okay.
I would. I mean, nothing wrong with Kushida. You know, I love Kushida, but I would do something. I would do something different with him. I just rather than have him just be part of the same team he's been a part of for a while. I think he's ready for new things. So what I worry about is him being the third or fourth guy in a faction with, either Swerve and Nana or something with, the Hurt Business and all this kind of stuff, where he's fourth or fifth guy down in a faction because he's young and new, and that's what I worry about with him. The guy that so I don't want him to be the Wheeler Yuta of some group where it's just he's the guy that takes the falls and
he's got
fans
star
in the background
written all over him, and it's just a matter of time.
I hope you're right.
Tony Khan went after him now. He was like he was a prospect. Like just a straight up prospect, and he went after him, and it was like,
and it makes sense. It's one of the few that the WWE doesn't have hooks in, either through the ID program or having already been signed. And it's probably smart to strike while the iron's hot on this one, because WWE is starting to choke off that talent pipeline by getting all these indie guys. And so I'm not trying to say Kevin's an indie guy, but I think from Tony's perspective is let's grab this guy while we can grab him.
Mark my words, Kevin Knight will be a more valuable asset to AEW than Josh Alexander, than Speedball Mike Bailey, and Megan Bain.
Oh, Megan. Oh, boy. Of all the people, I think Megan is the one that actually has the most potential with AEW. Right?
I don't know if they are able to bring out the best her. If she wins, what do you do with her? If she loses, what do you do with her at this pay-per-view?
No, yeah. It's too early for her to be in that spot. But I mean, if she wins, then she's the champion, and you always have something to do with the champion. But who knows? But we'll see how all this pans out. But Kevin Knight. Unfortunately, we'll see. Now we're expecting. We don't know. It hasn't been announced, but traditionally around Sakura Genesis time, we find out who's going to be in the Best of Super Juniors. We're just going off past events, usually during Sakura Genesis.
Based off of previous years, the likelihood of this happening is strong.
And they tell us who's in what block and the whole shebang and thing. So we should get more information this weekend.
And you're going to be in Japan during that time again. That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Although New Japan and I aren't going to be in the same place at the same time very much, unfortunately. So, but we'll see how all that goes. Like I said, I have tickets to Stardom and All Japan while I'm there for sure, and then Grand Sumo, and probably a baseball game. Almost certainly a baseball game.
Oh, speaking of baseball, I renamed my fantasy baseball team New Japan Pro Baseball because I have both Shohei Ohtani and the greatest player in baseball right now, Seiya Suzuki. Both on my team, and they're doing some heavy lifting for me right now.
My man. Oh yeah. No, it's been good. I'm curious to see who all's in this tournament for sure, because I honestly don't know who wins the damn thing. I'm like, I've been kicking around like, whose time is it to win Super Juniors? And I'm going to have to look at the blocks to see, because you know how when the blocks come out, you see, okay, well, that guy's in a spot where he might make the finals and all this stuff. I'm really curious. There is not.
Do you have Desperado lose this weekend and then just have him win and fight his way back?
Boy, I don't know.
Because it was never supposed to be Desperado in the first place. It was supposed to be Doki.
No, it was supposed to be Doki, yeah. I don't know. Clark Connors, I just feel like Clark has other things to do in a feud and all that. I don't see him taking it away from Despe right now.
Like the idea of turning over the title in a hardcore match?
Mm-hmm. And Bacon just says, too early for Megan Bain. Pretty sure Stardom threw her straight into a red belt match with Tam. Yes, they did. And Tam beat her. And then they spent the next 6 months just kind of doing other things with Megan until they brought her back up. I'm not saying you can't. I think they could have done. I think they could have built up Megan a little bit more than just put her right in with Tony. And I didn't think she should have been in that match with Tam. I think if she had been in that match with Tam later, it would have been better. Megan was pretty green. I think by the time she worked her way through all of those matches, iron sharpening iron over the course of months, and then I think that match would have been a lot better had they done it 3 months later after Megan had done a couple of tours and things. And that's that match wasn't bad because Tom was really good and Megan did well, but the Megan Bain at the end of that tour was a hell of a lot different than the one that walked right in on Tam Nakano. Although Tam Nakano was really funny when she got laid out by Megan afterwards. She staggers to her feet and selling, and Megan's gone and has made the challenge. And Tam just grabs the microphone and said, "What the hell? She was huge. Who was that?" Like, it was all the things that she probably would have said if you didn't know who that was. She was just like, had this look on her face. It was just like, what just happened to me? Who was that? Was that a person? It was just really funny.
So before we settle small talk and go into Sakura Genesis, I meant to ask you about Stardom with all the comings and goings right now and retirements and all that stuff. Can you just lay out everything that's happening? I know Mina Shirakawa had a last match. I know there's another one coming up on April, later this month. Can you just tell me what's going on with Nakano and Mina and everybody?
I will try. So coming up in Yokohama, their big show in Yokohama, they will be having Saya Kamitani against Tomo Nakano. Tomo's in storyline anyway, is a freelancer now. She had to leave Stardom after the last match with Kamitani. This stipulation is loser must retire immediately. So the red belt's on the line. So that whoever comes out of this has the red belt and their career. Although from what I'm hearing and gathering, if Tam wins, she is the red belt champion, but can only come in as freelance talent, which they've done before where they've had outsiders win the belt and the blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Okay.
Most people figure this is Kamitani beating Tam and Tam's exit strategy, although everyone seems a little skeptical as to whether Tamu is actually going to retire. I don't know we don't know what Tamu's plans are. Like I said, we expected a more of a retirement tour because her retirement's been rumored for years, but she didn't seem the type to just lose and go away. She seemed like the type that would have the farewell tours all around the horn. It's just kind of an odd thing. So either way, that's a stipulation for the red belt title right there.
Okay.
Mina Shirakawa has left and gone to AEW. Her last match in Stardom was against Micah yesterday on a Stardom show, allegedly. So she is off to AEW. That's another top babyface. And then we're still waiting on word to see if they keep Mayu Iwatani or not. Stardom is protecting itself by booking her against a very credible opponent in Yokohama in Shuri for the IWGP Women's Championship. Shuri is a more than worthy champion for that belt. So if they feel like they are losing Mayu, they might take it off of her and put it on Shuri, who's one of their top workers, top stars there is. And Tamu might be off to Marigold or wherever the hell Mayu Iwatani wants to go.
Okay.
But that would really leave a bit of a vacuum. Stardom has a lot of depth. That depth would be severely tested if all three of these main event level baby faces left within a couple of months of one another.
Who becomes the main event level baby face and heels? Like, who are the 4 or 5 that become like the top?
Natsupoi and Sayori Anu are already there for Cosmic Angels and would be top stars. Their Starlight Kid holds the white belt, top level babyface. Azumi, but she's in the same as Starlight Kid, the same faction as Starlight Kid. I would like to see them flip Momo Watanabe once she's healthy, and because I think it might be time for her to have a babyface run up there. And there's still all that Queen's Quest baggage with her and Kamitani and all that, because she used to lead Queen's Quest before she turned on them and went with Oedo Tai, which is now Hate and all that stuff. So there, like I said, a lot of depth. And then they are building up Aya Sakura, Sayaka Karara, and they've got another rookie who just looks fantastic. So the other ones I think could be elevated. Hanan and her younger sister Rina both of whom, Hanen's in the Stars, she's a babyface. Rina is a heel. Both of them have a world of potential. I mentioned Aya Sakura, who could be moving up the ladder. Now, I don't know if those people are ready to main event big shows in 2025, but I think the rest of 2025 should be spent getting them ready to do so in 2026. While Anu and Natsupoi and Starlight and Azumi handle things on top. And like I said, Shuri's always there. So this is where the depth comes in very handy. But it does.
Going to take some reshuffling and getting creative with how you have your roster moving forward. Even some of the factions are probably getting it shaken up.
And you know, Suzu Suzuki is always there, and they freshened her up with a change. So there's interesting things going on. So
yeah, I'm going to throw this graphic up here for an upcoming match that just got announced too. Is that Mina Shirakawa and Azumi are going to face off at Windy City Riot, and the winner will get Mercedes Moné at Resurgence.
We noted this a while ago that there wasn't a women's match announced for Windy City Riot yet, which was strange. And here we got it. So we're going to get a good one. It's going to be Azumi and Mina Shirakawa. And then, like I said, leading to Resurgence. I like this station-to-station booking where something happens on this show, it affects what happens on the next show. I enjoy stuff like that. I think it's smart to do for audiences. I saw that over 3,300 tickets were distributed for Windy City Riot. Now, that does not mean they were sold. It does not mean that many people will show up, but that many tickets have been distributed anyway. And that's a decent number, fairly close to what we saw last year. So that was a healthy crowd last year.
Now, let's see what we got here. WrestleTips, Windy City Riot. Current setup, 4,500, and you said they distributed 3,600. So they got less than 1,000 to go with a week.
Okay. Is that what it says now, about 36?
That was 6 days ago.
6 days ago was 36, so it might be close, hopefully closer to 4.
Yeah. 153 tickets moved from the last update. So
all right, maybe not.
You thought that, like, I think that you might have a significant amount of movement after Sakura Genesis because you're going to get a much more complete lineup, right?
A clear picture of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Goto or Finlay, whoever is going to have the title, whether Zack Sabre Jr. and Finlay is going to be a title match or not.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that in mind, that's next Friday. That's April 11th. We've got 2 shows to go over before that. So why don't we get into that a little bit now that we've
we got the one from the second. You tell me what you want to touch on that is important, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, there are just a couple of things, and they might end up being very, very small things, but I think it's worth mentioning that Master Wato and Yo basically agreed to team up after this show. So Yo basically said, I have nothing to do, being very yo-y and strange. And Wato walked up to him and just said, hey, I think we could make a pretty good team. They're going to need somebody. Of course, like I said, we're probably losing one of the babyface teams in Kevin Knight and Kushida, at least regularly in New Japan. So maybe Wato and Yo can fill that spot from the Hontai side. And
now that they're all like buddy and all, they can. This is what we're going to see more of, right? We're going to get more of these kind of. Yeah. Now these guys are going to be a tag team, and now like this is going to be a trio, and these guys are going to be in the multi-man together all the time. And
yeah, exactly. And the other thing we found out is mentioned 100 times, to the point that people aren't sure totally if it is a April Fool's joke or not, but a story ran in Tokyo Sports that Tetsuya Naito is now a freelancer, that his contract has expired and he has yet to sign a new one. The way this was done, it is either an absolute technicality where they just haven't signed papers yet, or it's an April Fool's joke that ran and everybody was just kind of going with it in the building, because Shingo was like pointing at him, says, you're a freelancer now. We need to have one more match because we're 1-1 before you leave the company and go somewhere else. And Hiromu was saying the same thing. Hiromu was joking with him and says, I'm a New Japan guy. You're an outsider. In the post-match comments, everyone seemed to be having a good time with it. And they were blaming poor Okamoto, who is the reporter that covers New Japan for Tokyo Sports, as perpetuating this story. So anyway, no one expects Tetsuya Naito to leave. If he is a freelancer, maybe he's just working fewer dates or whatever it is. He's New Japan through and through. Yeah. There's no indication.
He's not going anywhere, guys.
It was a running gag all night that, he's a freelancer.
You ever see him wrestle in an AEW ring? Homeboy's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no. Although I guess he's going to be back in Chicago, isn't he? So
I'm sure the T-shirt will look snug.
Yes, indeed. So that was the other thing I noted.
You mentioned April Fool's. I thought you were going to talk about the Taichi gag where he shaved his head.
Yeah, that's true. Taichi did play a joke where it looked like he shaved that wonderful head of hair of his, but no, we're okay. No, everything's okay. Remain calm. The other thing, I'm going to just real quick, we mentioned it last week. We said, hey, Yota Tsuji is wrestling Kanemaru on this show, and Evil isn't booked. I sniff an angle at work. And sure enough, we had one. Evil attacked and laid out Yota Tsuji to build up their global title match. The other thing was Clark Connors beat up, laid out El Desperado to build up their match. And Desperado's back looks like he went through hell. And in fact, he was cut to ribbons during that Barb Sasaki 25th anniversary show. And he still bears the marks on his back from whatever nonsense he was doing there with Jun Kasai on that show. So he looks like hell, but he was wrestling fine. It was all strictly superficial wounds, apparently.
He lives his life a completely different way than I live mine.
No, you're not kidding. And then he and Clark Connors just decided to spend most of the match chopping each other in the chest, just for the sake of making showers hurt for a few days, I guess.
You want to talk? If you need some ground beef.
Venkin mentioned something. Isn't Evil doing meet and greets in the U.S.?
Yes. Wow. He's going to be a WrestleCon in Vegas when I'm there, and I'm thinking about it.
You got to go. You got to go see Watanabe.
Got to go get me everything is Evil. Have him choking me around the neck. One of these like.
I told you I saw him when he was on excursion here in Austin, right? He did. Yeah, he was at a show here. Well, before he was the evil character. He was just Watanabe and things, and had a really good match, and then was just very casual with fans afterwards.
I'll tell you what, the price is right. It's fucking it's $30 to meet him and $30 for a photo, or $50 for both. Like, I'm not actually opposed to that. That's not. For like, if you're gonna pick one person and like it from New Japan and it's Evil, I'm like, it'd be all right.
Yeah. The other thing we saw here was Shingo Takagi and Hiroshi Tanahashi in a singles match, and they were 1-1 against one another. So this was the rubber match apparently, and it went about 20 minutes. And this is about as good a Tanahashi match as we are going to get now.
Oh yeah,
Shingo was
over-delivered.
Shingo was an absolute wizard. Tanahashi's effort is there. But sometimes the body is just unwilling. And Shingo got a lot out of him in this match. There were a couple of really fun sequences. At one point, they each tried to do a sling blade. Neither one of them really can, but they attempted it. All the big moves. He got aces high, but missed the high fly flow, and that spelled doom. And eventually, the burning dragon, that new move that's more like a death.
He took a made in Japan. He took a pumping Bonner. And then he took a burning dragon to put away Tanahashi. It was a total strong style finish.
Yeah, certainly. And just a classic thing. And afterwards, Shingo Takagi thanked him, all respect, the whole thing, and said, I went to see you as a teenager in this very building when you were a young lion. And it's a thrill to meet you here. Now I've beaten you in the Tokyo Dome, and now I've beaten you here in my hometown. And I'll always treasure that. So Shingo Takagi with some kind words for him. And it was noted that Tanahashi has won most of his road matches. Now, they've been against guys he should be beating, like Kojima and all that, and the Young Lions, of course, and things, guys of that nature. Makabe, for instance, and all that. So, but he has been putting over the main eventers when he's in with the main eventers. Of course, he lost to Goto, and then now here to Shingo Takagi. So it's interesting, Jeremy. You almost get an idea of who Tanahashi really sees as the top guys, as to who he's losing to during his final road.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that Shota match. I think quietly that's a storyline match that we are not paying attention to, or most people are not pegging as like a big deal. But I think Hiroshi Tanahashi could have a really rough week from Shota to Takeshita, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
So the show yesterday in Yamanashi is up on NJPW World in Japanese. They're going to add English to it later. That'll be done in post. Walker wasn't on the road for that, but Walker will be in Tokyo for each of the next two. So the Sakura Junior Genesis show live with both Japanese and English commentary. Same with Sakura Genesis proper from Ryogoku Kokugikan on Sunday.
The Yota Tsuji and Kanemaru match obviously went 12 minutes and ended with a DQ.
Dick Togo and Evil ran in.
When Evil nutshotted Yota Tsuji. But the whole conceit of the match was Yota Tsuji getting on the mic beforehand and talking to Kanemaru and them shaking hands. Do you have context as to what was said between the two?
I do. This is similar to something they've done with both Yano and Taguchi in the past. Here's what it is. At the beginning of the tour, Evil swore off any House of Torture-y things. I will not interfere. We will not cheat. We will not do any of these things. And all the time with his fingers crossed behind his back. And so just like Taguchi said, I'm going to play it straight and be, and be serious, Taguchi. Just like Yano at one point said, I won't be doing any of the foolishness. I'm just going to wrestle. And they always revert back to form, right? A leopard cannot change its spots. And so Evil said, we aren't going to be doing any of that stuff. And Tsuji, I don't know, cautiously optimistic with Kanemaru, just said, okay, we're going to just have a straight wrestling match. And Kanemaru said, yes, we are. And they shook hands before the match. As the match went on, Kanemaru got a little desperate because Tsuji was winning. The referee got knocked down when Tsuji went for a Gene Blast and ended up getting the ref. Kanemaru grabbed the whiskey bottle. Evil and Dick Togo came running down to the ring saying, no, don't do it, Uncle Nobu. Don't do it. Don't hit him with the whiskey bottle. We're straight and narrow now. And of course that led to Evil hitting him in the nuts. So there you have it. So that was all just a little
context.
A little
story for a hometown Nobu,
Yeah, and
get a little action into hometown.
And a storyline you can do at house shows where you get on the microphone and it's something different than the house shows for the people that showed up to these non-televised cards to get Evil on the microphone.
Not canonical as it would be if it were on TV.
Yeah. Just
you can play around fast and loose with these guys.
Something for the live crowd.
All right, we are a half hour in here. You want to preview some of the next shows coming up?
Let's go Sakura Junior Genesis, which will be taking place at Korakuen Hall on Friday. So here we go. With this one, it's going to open up with two people that we might end up seeing in Best of the Super Juniors. Again, no lineups announced quite yet, but this match is Ninja Mac, where I would love to see in Super Juniors. I think we all would. Teaming up with Katsuya Murashima to take on Koroku Yuya and Mao. So Yuya's a DDT guy. Mao works for everybody on planet Earth. So that's going to be one. If you look at his cage match or his wrestling data profile, you will see that just about everybody in Japan employs Mao at some point. So certainly a talented dude and a junior heavyweight. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these guys are on this show with Super Juniors on the way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like seeing Ninja Mac again. I feel like he's angling for a job. There are some voids in the roster that he would be served well, and he said he was not going to be back in 2025. I'm glad that he is wrong. He does kind of belong in New Japan.
Yeah, I think he's the right guy for it, and I think he's terrific. So I'd love to see it, and hopefully that'll come to pass. But either way, I think we're definitely getting him for this Super Juniors coming up, and there he's at the show.
Sir.
Second match will be another Hiroshi Tanahashi Final Road Kinship match. They're calling this one Kinship, just like it was when it was Makabe and when it was Kojima. Now, keep that in mind, that word, kinship, because, we'll get to that when we get to the Sunday show. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Ryusuke Taguchi.
We're getting every guy on the roster, right?
Yeah.
Why not do it at a junior, heavy show? And, you get this guy out of the way. And then, in all honesty, Tanahashi should be going through all of the Super Juniors on off nights of their matches. Maybe they have a match with Tanahashi throughout the Best of the Super Juniors, all the people on the roster. But I think Tanahashi should beat Taguchi. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, it shows you where they think this match is, that it's second on this card at Korakuen Hall, whereas the Shingo match was the main event. So Taguchi and he have been allies for a very long time. And like you say, he's going through most of the roster here, having these matches. And these kinship ones are against his buddies. The one interesting thing about Taguchi, I always thought was in Nakamura's book, Shinsuke Nakamura's book, he mentions he was in the Young Lion class with Taguchi. Like they were getting trained up at the same time. Taguchi is the only guy in that entire class of athletes that showed up capable of doing all the drills on day one. He walked in and did 1,000 squats the first day, the only guy that could do it without dying. And so Taguchi is somebody who is sneaky athletic, I would say, right there. But,
you look at this guy and you don't think about the fact that over a decade and a half ago, this guy was tag teaming with Finn Balor as champion, right? This guy was legit, and he always has been legit, but this is his role, and he is just he's taking a paycheck, and he's doing his role, and he happily clocks in and clocks out, and he's good at what he does. Career guy.
And similar to Yano, it's an act you can do until you're 60 and not really get hurt much. He just doesn't take a whole lot of risks anymore.
I don't love the ass stuff. I don't.
Yeah, I know.
But the longevity of his career, I would much rather have him doing matches than some of the guys that we saw on the show, like Tenzon and Hanma. It's getting hard. It's getting real hard.
Yeah. And Taguchi also sneaky tall. Taller than you would think. I walked right past him.
Lanky. I would call him lanky.
Yeah, I was surprised how tall Coach was. Nice guy too. Yeah. All right, next one.
You know what? Kind of physique he has? He has a physique similar to Sami Zayn.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. He's not a body guy. He's not cut, but he's athletic.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Up next, we have Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita. They are defending the IWGP Tag Team titles against Taiji Ishimori and Robbie X. Of course, Robbie X, star from Rev Pro. We're skipping a few things, previews here in the middle, but we'll get to those in just a little bit. This is the semifinal on the card. So Fujita and Eagles against Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori. The fact that Robbie X, again, might be in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament here. Ishimori, of course, always a great wrestler, but I don't really see Eagles and Fujita losing this. I don't think they really need to. And beyond that, though, frankly, you can never tell with the junior tag team titles because those bounce around more than any other belt in the company, I think. So it could happen. They might, but it seems a little early to take them off of TMDK.
It feels like all four of these guys are going to be in the Super Juniors, and I think there are other tag teams that are coming to the forefront that you can keep. You can keep the belts in these guys, especially since Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't have the world title anymore, and these guys can hold it down for a little while. I have the other matches that I didn't get the graphics for. If you want me to read them off to you real quick.
Well, I can do it too. The third match will, by the way, be a preview tag here featuring Naito, Hiromu Takahashi, the World Tag Team Champions, and Bushi against their challengers, Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb, along with Jacob Austin Young. So Bushi and Young are kind of there to be that extra guy, maybe take a fall if they need to. But we haven't seen Jeff Cobb on this tour yet until this match, actually. Hasn't been around. Newman's been on it, but Cobb,
back.
Cobb was not in Yamanashi, for instance. Cobb is indeed back for United Empire. Not hurt or anything, just not booked. Taking some time.
Do you think that with TJP doing the Cup, that Jacob Austin Young and Akira are the United Empire entrants into the Best of the Super Juniors?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably where they're going with that. I think that's so. I mean, and that'll be fine. I think those guys will be real good there. Venkin is nice to see the guy Balor turned on to start Bullet Club. That was Tanahashi. They came out and attacked Tanahashi, and he ended up being part of it just because he tried to help Tanahashi, but they turned on Tanahashi to form Bullet Club. And because Tama Tonga was doing his Jimmy Snuka impression at first there with wrestling barefoot and having the same tiger print trunks and all that stuff as a babyface, and he turned as well. And then later on, Carl Anderson, that type of thing. But yeah, Taguchi ended up being damaged and all that, but the real turn came on Tanahashi there. So that's what created Bullet Club. What else we got?
We got a tag match as fourth. Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji against Dick Togo and Evil.
I don't like Dick Togo.
Warm me up for the next day, baby.
Yeah, and again, this is a heater for the global title.
That's my engine, right?
yeah, absolutely. So, unless there are House of Torture shenanigans, that should be Dick Togo taking a loss here from somebody. But strictly, you could see an angle going on where somebody gets beaten down or laid out again, and it could be
the disqualification too.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
This is the match that it'll happen if anything.
Yeah, this is a match to set up something later. Not the point of anything. It's to set up something later.
And then we got another heater match for the next night. We got the Master Wato, Yoshihashi, and Hirooki Goto versus Geto, Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, and David Finlay.
Yeah, so Kidd, Maloney, and why am I blanking on this now? Are going to challenge for the Never Openweight titles on Sunday there. So who was that? Kidd, Maloney, and who else is challenging? I'll look it up. I'm sorry. I just blanked that. So there's a little bit of a preview there. It's with Ishimori. Another reason that Ishimori doesn't have to necessarily win that tag team title.
Kind of gives it away, doesn't it?
a little bit. But either way, this is going to be another one that's just mostly storyline. So it's not a preview for them. It's not a preview for Kidd and Maloney, but they're part of the whole Goto Finlay setup.
What else we got here?
I think so. Yeah, and then from there we've got Then after that we mentioned the junior heavyweight tag team match. Then we have the junior heavyweight championship match. This is a hardcore match. Clark Connors is the challenger against El Desperado. And with a hardcore match, you give everybody an out because anything can happen and other people can get involved and blah, blah, blah. I still think Desperado is probably the favorite in this one, but with a hardcore match, you can never count it out because of, like I said, between interference, between weapons and all this, there could be some sort of hook and crook to get that title away from El Desperado, but they seem pretty comfortable with it on Despe for now.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of start here and kind of approach the preview for Sakura Genesis by kind of laying out what everyone has going on before they even came into this match. And so, Desperado was out injured. He came back and he had the match with Doki in which he really wasn't supposed to win the title, and he did. And then all of a sudden, he is the junior heavyweight champion. And so in the midst of defending it here and there against Akira, he has been kind of on the forefront of getting Hontai reunified among all the baby faces. He's been with Goto a little bit. He's been at the forefront when Hontai has come out, helping other baby faces and kind of shoring up the group. And he's been kind of reluctant about it. So that's been kind of his story, but it's not really a championship story. It's only a championship because they're looking at him because he is a champion. Meanwhile, Clark Connor is in the War Dog, which is going through kind of a tweener situation. They're baby faces against other worse heels, but they're still heels against the other baby faces. And just recently, Clark Connor won the Defy World Championship when it was vacated, when Ricky Starks had it and then went to WWE and became Ricky Starks. So there's really no reason for Clark Connor to win the Defy title and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. To me, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's the same thing, but it gives me kind of Kenta holding the Defy title vibes, where it's like, this guy got a certain level holding the title, and that's fine, but you're artificially enhancing the Defy title and lowering the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title if this guy ends up winning both through like a hardcore match. It just, like, something about it doesn't seem like the calculus fits. Clark Connors is fantastic. I think the match is going to be a great hardcore match. I feel like I've seen so many hardcore matches so much recently that it's just one more onto the pile.
Yeah.
But it's not been from New Japan. So I can't really give them a hard time because I'm watching all these hardcore matches.
At least it's not another three-way match. So we have Vankin says hardcore match so Desperado can do some crazy stuff, I assume. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming also. He's just going to do something.
Clark will take one really insane bump and that'll be that.
Yeah, and I was looking at it from a different way, but came to the same conclusion. I kept thinking Best of Super Juniors is coming up. The winner of the Best of Super Juniors gets the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion in a match that is at least high enough to be a part of a big show. Sometimes it's at Dominion, sometimes it's separate from Dominion, but it's always a big match. And who do you want as the target for that? I mean, who's going to sell tickets? And it's Desperado in a title match or Clark Connors in a title match. And I think it's somebody coming for Despe is probably the correct answer there.
I would give more than 50% chance that the loser of this match is one of the final four in the Best of the Super Juniors.
All right. So that is tomorrow's show that's coming up. We'll know that in just in less than 24 hours. So we'll move on to Sakura Genesis at Ryogoku Kokugi-Kan Sumo Hall. Again, hoping for a big crowd. We'll see how it turns out. They were looking at about 6,500 last year. So if they can do that again, that'd be a terrific day. Kickoff match is between two of the young lions. It's Murashima and Daiki Nagai. The only two young lions, Jeremy, who are even cleared to wrestle right now. Shomakado's injured. And
everything on the shelf. Everything on the shelf.
Yeah. And then beyond that, the Yatsuda, we haven't seen him since he got his teeth knocked out of his head there in that match. I believe that was with Murashima. So we'll just have to wait and see how long it'll take them to get back in the ring. But in the meantime, Nagai and Murashima. Nagai, probably the best promo in the entire company, like right now today. And Murashima's coming along by leaps and bounds. So I think he's a really talented kid.
I think if Nagai can really lock in on the parts of his personality that they're going to enhance when he's outside of the young lion, he's going to go really far.
Enhance. Like we're on CSI. Enhance. Up next, we have the grudge match. This is Yuya Uemura and Sanada. So this is one that's been brewing for a good while, something they had to address since while Uemura was out hurt, Sanada turned on his faction, and they brought Uemura back by making a save and attacking Sanada, keeping him from doing any further damage. So we are getting the one-on-one here, Yuya Uemura versus Sanada.
End this now.
Not doing it for you?
They need to build up Yuya Uemura, and he's going to have babyface wins. I just don't want the bullshit finish leading to some type of stipulation match, like for Dominion.
Okay, you want it done.
I want him to move past Sanada. Sanada is a gatekeeper, and to me, Yuya Uemura needs to be started to be positioned as one of the top baby faces of Hontai. And if he is struggling to get past Sanada for whatever reason, that does not compel me to believe that he is a top baby face.
Not to insult Uemura or anybody else, but to me, I am more interested in where Sanada lands in the War Dogs House of Torture story.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of questions about both of these guys and where they're going to end up on the heel babyface like feeding chart.
Yeah. So to me, I think this is just a station on the way to that. So I would think so too. That maybe we just end this one right here and then move both these guys on to other things.
Yeah, so like I wanted to do earlier, Yuya Uemura came back from injury. Really only had the New Japan Cup campaign, in which was ended by David Finlay after he injured his elbow in the G1. So this is his first real feud. He beat Sanada in the first round, and then Sanada basically, came for his remains after he lost to Finlay, and here we are now. We'll see where it goes. The logic to me dictates that this is going to continue, because why would the feud continue if Sanada is just going to lose again? I don't know. The whole Sanada joining the War Dogs after leaving just 5 guys and him being really ambiguous about what his allegiances lie, says the story is more about Sanada than it is Yuya Uemura, and that's fine. it being so low on the card also says that, maybe there's a story to play with these guys later on in the show. Who knows? But if Yuya Uemura is the top babyface, he should be the guy coming out to help Hiroshi Tanahashi at the end. Hello, Scott. I hope you're doing well as well.
Scott Edwards, Body Wrestling, here with us. Glad to have you.
And then if Sonata ends up winning, he should be the guy coming out, somewhere between the Evil and Finlay match and that cluster of chaos that is probably going to ensue at the top of the card tonight on that show.
One thing I'd like to mention while we have Scott here, don't forget 5-Star Joshi Show coming up later. I talked a little bit about Stardom earlier and did the best I could, but Scott knows all of it. So that's the guy you should be going to for your Joshi needs. He also has a Joshi Informer newsletter that you should look up. It's fantastic. I really rely on it to help me keep track of everything in the Joshi world. So
yeah, Scott, I'm going to need you for middle of May.
Yeah, perhaps I'm gonna. Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe I can call in.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. All right. After this one, we got a title match, and that is the television title on the line. This is Phantasmo and Great Okan. This was set up in the New Japan Cup when Okan defeated Phantasmo, and then sent TJP after Phantasmo to soften him up. So TJP, of course, went after Phantasmo's knee, beat him down. And that brings us to this match where Great Okan is going to try to bring the television title to the United Empire.
Yeah, so ELP had ball cancer, and he came back right before Wrestle Kingdom and won the world title, the TV title, in a 4-way against Jeff Cobb and a few others. And from there, he had to deal with Jeff Cobb throwing him like a lawn dart. And then the rest of the United Empire basically trying to come and pick his bones after every guy before them has not been able to pull it off. Great Okan earned this title match when he beat ELP in the New Japan Cup. TJP inexplicably deemed himself also worthy of a title match after getting a non-title pin in a random tag during the New Japan Cup. And now here we are, Great Okan, being the last guy to get his shot, and he could be the guy to take it from ELP, but deep down, I kind of don't think that's going to be the case.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Phantasmo is popular right now. The whole thing, the fans are even starting to get into the ELP part of his music, so he's gaining a little bit of momentum. They might leave it on him. And then, of course, Okan, always an interesting person, and having him with a title, the King of Pro Wrestling, that was always intriguing. They might have them beat ELP here just to give a new look to that TV title, but who knows? Like I said, El Phantasmo has been dealing with the various members of United Empire for most of the year now, and kind of giving off final boss vibes here.
You could go two different ways here. If ELP wins, it furthers like the deconstruction angle of the United Empire. But if Great Okan wins it, he's almost making himself the leader of the faction by doing that.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought too, especially with the way the TJP thing played out, because I know TJP is not going to be in New Japan as much as, not gone, but less than. He mentioned that a while, that he was going to be doing a little bit less time in Japan with New Japan. So it made sense that he would be the guy that would soften up El Phantasmo, but that really did look like a leader telling his guy to, tenderize this dude for me. It gave up.
Get him ready for me, baby.
It wasn't very captain-like to be the henchman, which the way TJP kind of came off right there.
Handing him off on a silver platter was what it looked like.
Glad to have Maria Graciela Sayas here.
Hi, Maria.
Maria says this match is going to be spectacular. She loves Phantasmo, and he should be the
15
leader.
15 minutes of magic.
And believes that Great Okan should be the leader. Maria is down with it. Yeah, I mean, they might make a good leader for United Empire, and might be the right move. Certainly the person with the most in public speaking, he just kind of comes off as a guy that should be leading a faction. He's always intriguing to me.
Would it be cooler if he named it Conway?
They're always intriguing to me. I'm working on the pronoun thing. I apologize. They're working. They're the most charismatic.
What do you think about renaming the faction Kong's Empire?
Boy. feel like they might be getting.
I
some
feel like
cease
it's
and
better than
desist.
United Empire. Like you're gonna have to rebrand that thing if Khan takes it over.
Watch the cease and desist. Somebody needs to be looking through the copyright laws on those things. Colin says the New Japan missed a trick with Great Khan after they saved the girl from the creep. Yeah, they could have been a huge babyface. Yeah,
I can tell you that somebody probably put the kibosh on that one.
And they probably, and they were for a while. I mean, they had a terrible time getting Great Khan booed for a minute there. They had to do a few things, but at first, Great Khan absolutely was cheered when they made national news for that. Saving that woman.
The rise of Great Khan and the absence of another major star in New Japan is not a coincidence.
Yeah. All right. Up next, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Shota Umino. Now, I mentioned earlier that all of his matches with his allies have been called kinship. The match with Taguchi, the match with Kojima, the match with Makabe. This one is called connection. I thought that was intriguing. I just like they're using a different word for it. This is not a kinship match right there. So I don't know if this is the time. Are we on angle alert here, Jeremy?
I think I'm on angle alert. I think I'll be disappointed if there's nothing to this match.
I will be too, by the way. Yeah. If this is just a thing where Shota Umino beats him, or even if Tanahashi just hits the high fly flow and beats him and nothing else happens after that, I'll be a little bummed out. I feel like we're ready. We're due for a chapter in this story. We need to see where Shota's head is at, or at least leaning.
We are at the end of the first part one of Tanahashi's retirement tour, right? Like he's just having these matches and everything's fine. He's enjoying himself. He's competitive. He's winning most, but he's starting to lose some, like the Shingo, and he's being honest with himself. The Takashita one is going to be a challenge, but this is the one where it could be like the Rude Awakening, where it's just like some of these guys are like might have feelings and we're going to be dealing with them in the ring. I'm not entirely sure, but with Shota's rebuild happening and Tanahashi going into this area of matches where he's probably not going to have as easy a time. And even though he's not having an easy time right now, these are going to get different. This could be a moment.
Yeah, it could. It really could. And it could go a lot of different ways, right? It could be the thing where Tanahashi beats him and Shota snaps. Right. It could be where Shota snaps and then beats Tanahashi, maybe beats him down. There could be a lot of things you could do with this. But so I don't want to just pick a winner because I think you could angle this into any way you choose. I don't know with the Takeshita match coming, Tanahashi could be putting himself on a losing streak, which seems a little weird for a retirement tour. He just lost to Shingo. And in the post-match comments, he said, I can't keep up. He said, I couldn't keep up with him. Maybe this is the right time. So might be setting this up that maybe these top-level guys just are a little too fast for him these days. But between this one, the Takeshita match coming, the loss to Shingo right there, I mean, it really puts things up in the air for me, especially when you can do something where he catches him in an inside cradle and then have Shota lose his mind.
Right. So you remember when we had Lyric on the show around Wrestle Kingdom? I told her and you that I thought this was the Wrestle Kingdom match for Tanahashi. And if he's going to face somebody on the roster, it really does seem likely to me that it could be somebody that he faces earlier in the year and then runs it back later rather than, something in September and then like January. Yeah. It doesn't seem like the timing would really fit. Like you're calling back to something that happens in there earlier in the year, something that Tanahashi is bothered by, like one last thing. And this to me kind of feels like you're laying the groundwork for something for the end of the year. And to me, I hope I'm right when I say don't sleep on this match. It could be very important this year.
Yeah. And so, like I said, a coin flip for me as to who actually gets their hand raised at the end of it, but we're on angle alert for this.
I'm going to go with Shota.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to go with not clean.
Sense.
Not a queen.
Okay. All right. That would make sense. But remember, Finlay said, you got to be like me if you want to win. And he nodded.
Yeah.
This might be when he takes the advice. All right. Next. Yeah. So the never open weight 6-man tag team titles on the line. The current champions are Ren Narita, Sho, and Yujiro Takahashi. and they will be facing the War Dogs team of Gabe Kidd, Drilla Maloney, and Taiji Ishimori. So once again, you have the never openweight 6-man titles, which are hot potato titles. You have a faction in House of Torture that throws a wild card into everything. Once again, basically a coin flip. They might do something where they use the push-up bar and get more heat on House of Torture. They might be a switch here. Could go either direction because whatever happens, this story is certainly not going to end at Sakura Genesis.
I think we're going to have a wild kind of brawl. You know, like I'm hesitant to think that the War Dogs are going to walk away with the trios title from this. I just something about it just kind of maybe there's a dominant thing where they win it and it's just like an additional sense of like inevitability that they want to create for Finlay winning the title at the end of the night. You know, like a strength thing. I don't think it matters who wins this match.
Not so much.
Those titles have frequently just been a prop rather than like a major driver to the story and whatever's going on in New Japan. Right. I think we're just here to see Gabe Kidd beat Smash.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably right. After that one, we have another title match. This is the Never Openweight Championship match. This one with Ryohei Oiwa challenging Konosuke Takeshita. And I'm just going to sit back and enjoy because I think these two are going to put on a clinic here. I think this one's going to be great.
I think this is going to be that first match in the show where when you see the graphic pop up, the crowd's going to like rumble. You know, they're like, oh, you know, like you've seen that a couple of times with some of these matches where like the match graphic pops up and all of a sudden you realize the crowd's here for this one. And I think a lot of people are going to be here for Oiwa and Takeshita. I think Takeshita is clearly going to win this match going into the match with Tanahashi and everything. But I'm not necessarily sure Takeshita wins all the matches with Oiwa going forward. I think that star is rising really fast with Oiwa, and this could be the match of the night if we're being honest.
Got a question for you when we talk about this next one, which is the IWGP Tag Team Title match, and it is with Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito facing Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb. That's the challenger team from United Empire.
Sure.
My mind has been on these tag team titles a little bit just because Naito and Takahashi are such a strange team to hold them and all that. And Oscar Leube and Nakashima have lost their belts over there in Europe and England. And if they are on the way back, would United Empire be the correct fit for those two? I don't know. I was thinking about that. I was trying to figure out what group they would join if they came back. And I think perhaps that would be it. I don't know. You know, the United Empire mostly for the foreign guys, you know, with a couple of exceptions. So it's just something that I was kicking around. Either way, we have Takahashi and Naito against Newman and Cobb. Again, you know, you
kind of just a mess. Like, I don't know where you put those guys.
Yeah, I don't know. But the key is here, Hiromu and Naito, big drawing cards. You could see it there in Yamanashi yesterday. The crowd lit up when Naito's music came on. They chanted his name when he came out. He's not what he was in the ring. He is still the biggest star in the company. So keeping him in a prominent spot where Hiromu can do most of the work makes all kinds of sense. And I don't think it's the time to switch the titles to Cobb and Newman, even though Cobb and Newman are a perfectly good tag team. Maybe they'll surprise me and do it anyway. This
is a perfect use of Naito. Like low wattage, very little battery needed. You inherently know that he's not an important part of the main event scene, but you get to see Naito, you get to see Hiromu. They have titles. There is an illusion that all of this is like a big deal, but this is just the best way to protect Naito right now.
Yeah.
Jeff Cobb and Callum Newman are great opponents that, you know, can do a lot with Naito and can move and jump and, you know, give him good base for Destinos and all of these things. Like, they're just good guys for the show. And then, you know, you've got another match for Windy City. It's going to be the same kind of like setup. You know, it's going to be with, I think Bushi instead of Hiromu for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, just like we knew what Naito was going to be in 2025. And the fact that, you're able to smoke and mirrors it as much as you can until the big shows is frankly pretty impressive.
It just feels like it's the best thing to do with Naito, because what do you do with him once these belts are gone? You can do a rematch and have them challenge whoever beats them. You can do that. So you don't have to break up the team immediately if they were to lose here, for instance. Right. And Naito's going to be in the G1, I'm assuming, is if his health allows.
You remember Tanahashi, like 2022, 2023 G1, where he was losing all the time, and he was legitimizing other people on the downturn of his own career. That's what Naito's going to be in the G1 this year. It's like, I can't see him being part of the final 8 or final 4 or whatever it's going to be. It's just.
Well, my point being is that he doesn't have a whole lot else to do but be in this tag team. And he doesn't have a singles feud even brewing. I mean, he and Newman are kind of staring at each other, but no one thinks that Callum Newman is on his level yet. Might be someday, not yet, but it just feels like a retention here to keep this going.
What's the hot tag team you put the belts on instead of Naito and Hiromu? There's nobody. Yeah. Like there's no irons in the fire. You know what I mean? Like I can't even think of.
Maybe Nakashima.
You think that they would do that right away with those two guys?
Maybe. I don't know.
They just there are no hot tag teams in New Japan.
They've done it before though. Sho and Yo as Roppongi 3K won the junior titles their first night back. So Rocky brought it back.
It's not impossible.
It's not
impossible. But even then, Leube and Nakashima, they're doomed because they don't have any opponents that can make them look good.
Seriously, though, that tag team seems pretty barren in New Japan right now.
This is what I'm saying. Like, the minute I was thinking about who's up next, it's like, who's that tag team after this? And maybe we're getting some House of Torture after this because of the Yoda Tsuji connection. I don't even know. But maybe it's just going to be a babyface. LIJ for some Hontai guys. Could be.
Yeah, might be. But it's hard to say right now. Up next, we have the global heavyweight title, and that's going to be Yuto Tsuji and Evil. So there you have it. This one's been brewing for a while, of course, between these two, going back to the Cup and even a little bit before that. So Yuto Tsuji and Evil for the global championship. Where do you see this one going?
Let me ask you this first.
All right.
Have you been underwhelmed or just whelmed by Yuto Tsuji's title reign so far?
That's been fine, but he hasn't been put into a whole lot of position to really shine big time in it either.
Right. I mean, he had the Jungle Boy match, and then did he have a match at New Beginnings? With anybody?
I have to go back and look.
But I mean, then he went to the Cup and he bounced out of the Cup, and now he's got the Evil match. All of this is fine, but I would be gobsmacked if this guy lost his title now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, Evil to me is a gatekeeper, and Yuto Tsuji is a main event talent, and Yuto Tsuji should be winning this match and establishing that he is the top guy there.
Tsuji had the double knockout with Gabe Kidd at New Beginning.
That's right. But so he hasn't really he's got to win this match.
Okay.
I mean, if the only title win that title defense win that he has before dropping the title is against Jack Perry, that's not good.
It reminds me a little bit of what we were talking about with Uemura and Sonata, in that the real story for Evil is the Bullet Club feud.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So the global title could be a part of that. That could absolutely be a part of it. So I don't know. I mean, there's doubt, but I do agree that I would leave it on Tsuji here as well. But they could definitely put it on Evil to have that as a goal for somebody in the War Dogs to go after.
It doesn't feel right to me, though.
Yeah,
it's like Gabe already has a strong title. Finlay already won the global title.
I agree, but that's the only. Whenever we do these, I try to make arguments for either guy winning just to see what feels a little bit better. And
I think a definitive win for Tsuji is the only logical outcome to this one. Evil is basically feuded with Tanahashi for the entirety of 2024. He comes back. He disappears after the Sumi Sakai retirement, and then he he loses to Finlay in the New Japan Cup. Not amazing.
Yeah, Venkin mentions that's right. They might keep this title on Tsuji until Kid challenges again.
Run that back at Dominion, definitely.
Very possible. Very possible. That would be a better money match than Evil against somebody.
I mean, the last guy that held the title for an entire year. So if this guy can't even win a title defense, other than from a homegrown New Japan guy, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. All right, so we'll go back to that. So we have, now the next one is, of course, the big one, the main event, the World Heavyweight title on the line. And that is going to be Hirooki Goto defending against David Finlay, the winner of the New Japan Cup. Is this the end of the Hirooki Goto feel-good ride, Jeremy? There are arguments to be made on either side. And we said before that we think that David Finlay is going to be the champion in 2025. With Goto, boy, it's tempting to leave it on him because business has been good with him as champion. I still think that it is very difficult to get New Japan off their plan. And I feel like the plan is probably for Finlay to take this belt off of Goto right here and ascend to the title. He held the global title. He established the global title. He gave it up to Tsuji in that terrific match at Wrestle Kingdom. Now it might be time for him to take the World Heavyweight Championship belt. And it just feels like this might be the right time because, again, with Finlay, do you send him in against Evil to battle it out for Bullet Club with him not being the world champion? Perhaps. I keep going back and forth on this one, but I just feel like in the end they're going to stick to the plan because I think they like that Goto was going to have this feel-good moment, but I think the intensity of it surprised them a little bit, but I don't see them shifting off of it. I think Finlay gets the belt here. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's the time.
I've been going back and forth on this, and there's a part of me that think there's an inevitability that Finlay's winning this title this year, and this is probably the time that it happens. But they've raised enough doubt with enough stuff going on outside with Bullet Club and House of Torture and the factional warfare that I could see either Finlay winning or something incredibly cataclysmic happening that costs him the title and it completely changes his worldview and all that stuff. The issue with that is that kind of story takes away from Goto being the champion and him successfully defending, and it makes it a story about Finlay when he is not the world champion. So that is a very dangerous needle to thread if you are going to focus on something that is an angle outside of the IWGP title, rather than having the IWGP title being the forefront of whatever the angle is about. Because at the end of the day, that's the big thing, is the IWGP title. So for me, I'm kind of leaning towards Finlay winning it, and then whatever happens after that. Realistically, I think Goto has gotten probably everything that he's going to get. They've maximized everything that they can get, and it's probably going to be somewhat slightly diminishing returns until they finally take the belt off of him. Is it better to exit early before the party dies?
Yes.
Or do you want to squeeze the blood from the stone?
You want to do it one show too early rather than one show too late in some ways. And it's you're right. Eventually that's going to die off a little bit. And he's done well. I mean, his matches have been good as world champion. His matches are going to keep being good. He's great. He's a really good wrestler. Finlay's the story, though. Finlay's the next guy. And I think it's time to go ahead and do that. I think it's time to go ahead and do that and send it into something big at Dominion. It's just time to establish him as the guy, because whether he goes into the G1 or not as champion, I kind of think he does, then that's how you start setting up all of the next generation of future challengers. It just makes more sense.
If you did something
because you want the crowd behind. I'm sorry, if I can make one more point. You want the crowd behind guys like Uemura. You want the crowd behind guys, maybe not Shota, but we got an angle alert on. But even Tsuji, or Takeshita, all these guys that like the next generation guys we're talking about, Oiwa, for instance, you want the fans behind them, and you would split that if it were Goto. You would, because the people love Goto so much, and I think you can get a more united front of fan sentiment if it's somebody like Finlay. Finlay can absolutely be a tweener that where you root for him against evil, but not against Uemura. Yeah, that makes sense. And so I think he is of better utility to get that next generation chasing the world title.
Is it possible that Finlay wins and then gets betrayed and like taken out in like an injury angle, and then it becomes, will he be able to defend in 30 days kind of thing? Or is that title?
Let's look at New Japan patterns, right? There is a special singles match that is not for a title, and it's Sanada and Uemura. Like, what if we get the turn with Sanada where it turns out he does stab him in the back? What if we, again, Uemura wins. Now he's got a heel-ish guy to challenge. And it doesn't have to be that. I'm not saying that they don't do it every single time, but there is a history of win the singles match earlier on the show, challenge later. It's all right there. And again, both sides kind of point to Finlay.
Yeah. And Finlay does have the match with Zack Sabre Jr. the immediate week after at Chicago. So it won't necessarily be a case that happens at Windy City. Mm-hmm. But it could, or it happens at Sakura Genesis. But whatever happens at Windy City. Like there could be a part 1 and a part 2. That kind of like things happen here and then things happen there. It's going to be a very interesting week, and I would be shocked if we had nothing to talk about of interest when we come back next week in terms of our Windy City preview. I'm thinking about trying to find Chris Samsa. He's going to the show, and he talked about coming on before or after that show.
That would be great.
I'll probably send out the Samsa signal for him. But we're gonna have something to talk about. We're gonna be having like a paradigm shift, a change in the layout of New Japan after this show. I am positive of it. There's just been too much quiet, just cruise control going on with the New Japan angles that
they've been simmering, haven't they? Yes, it's about time to boil over. Boil over.
Yes.
Okay.
They're going to reach the precipice. You got some comments that we got to hit up over here?
Yeah, well, there are a few of those. I do want to get to those. But I also wanted to mention Windy City Riot and just go over the lineup for that. I think we've gotten to have we gotten in? Are there any comments that I haven't gotten to yet?
I don't know. Okay. I left the comments blank for you, but they've been stacking up. So
Windy City Riot, Wintrust Arena on Friday, April 11th. We'll have a fuller preview next week.
We're going deep next week, not this week.
Mina Shirakawa versus Azumi. Again, the strong women's #1 contender match. The winner will get Mercedes Moné at Resurgence. And then we will have the strong openweight tag team championships, Kevin Knight and Kushida against Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs, the West Coast Wrecking Crew. Also have a tag match with Naito and Titan against Rocky Romero and El Fantasma, which is interesting there to have.
That's a weird match, but I'm here for it.
That's a strange match. 30-minute special singles match, time limit that as of now. David Finlay versus Zack Sabre Jr. Will that change should David Finlay win the world title? We don't know.
Hirooki Goto is also on the match on the show as well. I don't think I have a graphic for Tanahashi and Takeshita, but that's obviously on the match.
Yeah, that's a kinship match. Again, the Shota Umino match connection. This is a kinship. So Tanahashi versus Takeshita. And then the strong open weight Iron Man match. So this is a 30-minute match. Most falls in 30 minutes wins. And last time they went 30 minutes without any falls. So I imagine this will be quite different. Tomohiro Ishii challenging Gabe Kidd for that.
You remember that story about how I was at that show and I'm sitting next to John LaRocca, and about 8 minutes in, he turns over to me. He's like, I think they're going Broadway. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I think they're going 30 minutes. And we're not going to finish. And it was about 19, 20 minutes where I was like, God damn it. Like they were doing the chops and they were stretching everything out. And it was like, oh, yeah, he's absolutely right.
So again, by no means a full card. We know that there will be people in Chicago that have not had matches announced as of yet, and we also expect, the opening match, Zane J, the King of the Mountain thing, the Strong Survivor match that'll get added in with whoever they decide to challenge him for that title, and then we'll get some other stuff. Who else? You mentioned Goto is going to be in Chicago, but his match isn't announced yet.
Yeah, let me see if I can find anything on that right now.
Venkin thinks it's going to be Azumi facing Mercedes Moné at Resurgence. They have met before, and Moné really likes her. I think it was a three-way match with Hazuki and Azumi. Is that right?
Yeah,
a while ago.
All of them have been in matches together.
Yeah, and it'll be terrific if so. I mean, Azumi is elite level working. Pardon the pun. There, not an AEW wrestler. Mina Shirakawa is all elite now, but Azumi is seriously a top of the line Joshi. So that'll be a good matchup either way. She and Shirakawa, and if she is the one that goes on against Mercedes Moné, that'll be dynamite as well. I'm just doing the AEW puns.
You are all elite with your puns today.
Oh goodness.
No, I know that Goto was announced for it, but I don't think anybody other than that is actually.
Okay. Well, we only have 6 matches, and there will certainly be more than that. So we'll have
like
things added on.
8 or 9.
Yeah, they'll probably add a couple.
Probably be another women's match in there somewhere.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, it might be. What they'll often do, though, is have the title match and then have the match earlier on that sets up another title match down the road.
Yes.
Like they'll have, and we don't need that because this one sets up the Moné match. So we'll see what they add in. It's not necessarily going to be a women's match. Normally I would think so, but maybe they might. And then Venkin says, I don't see you make Mina win when they can do that match on AEW TV, and this is a New Japan title. Yep. I agree with you, Venkin.
Yeah, I'm double checking on the rest of this, but I don't see a whole lot of other matches being announced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to go with 6. Not on, and that
Definitely
is
not.
And Windy City Riot is a pay-per-view, by the way. They've had NJPW Strong shows that were part of the package, but unfortunately, this one is an extra charge.
I gotta pay money for this.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fine. You got a history lesson or anything today?
No, we're almost out of time here, so we're about good. The only thing I was looking at was just to talk about.
Jeff Cobb will be on a match, so he wasn't announced for anything yet. So he was one of the guys announced for the show. Hirooki Goto was announced, and then those are the guys that don't have a match that were previously announced to be there.
I think we'll fill out the time, though. There is something I was looking at, maybe not just a deep history lesson, but more of just where are we now type of thing, Jeremy. I was looking at Sakura Genesis from last year, and it was on April 6th of 2024. And I thought it was interesting to see who all was involved and where people were on the card, just to show you how things have changed in just 1 year. There were mostly just the general tags underneath. So, for instance, it was Sabre and Fujita. They defeated Desperado and Ryusuke Taguchi in the first match. So the pre-show match was Ishii, Yano, and Bolton over Ayato Yoshida, Takuro Niki, and Chicharito Shoki. So some guests in there. That one. That was when they were doing the thing where they were bringing in people from other small companies regularly and having them on the preview. I guess we're going to see a little bit of that at Genesis here. Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi were in this one. They defeated David Finlay and Geto. So, the Geto pretty much just put over LIJ in that one. And then we had Sanada, Doki, and Uemura were a team 1 year ago against Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Callum Newman, with just 5 guys coming out on top of that one. Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors. Drilla was still a junior, and they were the junior tag team champions. And they defeated the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kushida and Kevin Knight, and Catch 2-2 in a 3-way tornado match for that title.
To begin their terror destruction reign as the IWGP Junior Tag Champions for the majority of the year.
No, they went in as the champions of that one. They were already the champions.
Oh, okay.
And then Bishamon did win the IWGP Tag Team titles by beating Kenta and Chase Owens in the 6th match on that one. So that was Bishamon regaining the tag team titles there.
I had completely erased that from my memory. That they lost and had to regain the titles from Chase Owens and Kenta.
You want to talk about one you probably won't remember. Think about this one. Sho defeated Yo when Yo separated his shoulder 2 minutes into the match.
I do remember that.
Junior heavyweight title.
But I wouldn't have called it that show.
Well, we put that a year ago. It just doesn't seem like that was a year ago, but it was. And then Shota Umino and Jon Moxley teamed up to defeat Ren Narita and Jack Perry by pinfall in a tag team match.
I really like Jack Perry in New Japan. I may be the only one, but
no. I said I like him better in New Japan than I did in AEW, and I'm not trying to.
He hasn't even been back in AEW since he lost that match in New Japan.
Yeah, and Colin, I'm going to get to that question here. I'm going to finish this card though, and then we're going to get to that. The semifinal a year ago, Shingo Takagi and Evil for the never open weight title, and Shingo Takagi won the title there from Evil in that match. Kanemaru in Evil's corner there, but that was
everything was Shingo that night.
Yeah, everything was. And then the main event of that one, you remember, of course, Yota Tsuji challenged Tetsuya Naito for the world heavyweight title, and it was Naito getting the win in 34 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yet another time where people were demanding that Yota Tsuji win the world title, and maybe they weren't wrong.
And Benkin just meant Chase Owens being tag team champion, and I can almost hear his head shaking as he says it. Colin asked, "Did I watch the latest Marigold show? And what did I think of?" Oh well, yeah. This is something I was talking to Scott Edwards about earlier today, just in text. What do I think of the Marvelous? So, Marvelous is a smaller promotion that is working with Marigold. And there's an invasion thing going on where it's Marvelous versus Marigold. And what did I think of Marvelous rookie Senka Akatsuki? Phenomenal. So there is a super rookie teaming with Nanae Takahashi and Marigold. Marvelous has a super rookie. So the Twin Star Tag Team title match had a veteran on one side and a rookie from each company. And it was a phenomenal tag team match, and Senka Akatsuki from Marvelous was brilliant, and so was the Marigold side. Really good show. Bozilla challenged Utami Hayashishita for the red belt in the main event, and it could not follow that Twin Star tag match. So two rookies, both of whom are only a couple dozen matches into their careers, perhaps, and they absolutely tore that house down. And I loved it. I thought it was one of the better tag team matches I've seen this year. I enjoyed it so much. Nothing could follow that thing. And Rhea Sato is another young one that came from Actress Girls that's now in Marigold, and she is starting to break out and become terrific. And we're also seeing some of the best work that Mai Sakurai's done as their white belt champion. So a lot of good stuff going on in Marigold right there. If they pick up Mayu Iwatani, and there's good things ahead for that company too. And this is something I mentioned to Scott. We talk a lot on this show about the next generation of people in New Japan. The rookies and young wrestlers in Joshi right now, just brilliant. I mentioned the two there for Marigold. Over in Stardom, you have Aya Sakura and Carrara. They've got a new rookie that looks great. Rina and Hina are only 18 years old. They just turned 18 the week after Christmas. Hanan is in her early 20s. There's so much great young talent coming on the Joshi front from all the companies. Chi-Chi, I think, is in her early 20s for Sendai Girls, and she's been great. Future very, very bright. So even though Mina's leaving Japan, Tamu might be retiring, I think there's going to be great things in Joshi wrestling for a good long time, because every company I turn to, every show I watch, there's somebody in their first year that just looks like they've been wrestling for 5 or 6 years. It's just really cool to see.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments? Any peanut gallery stuff?
Yeah, if you have them, go ahead and put them down there. Don't forget, Power Bombshells is going to be previewing AEW Dynasty on their show. Make sure you see that, and that'll get you all set up for everything. Then you can watch the big AEW show. The pay-per-views are always terrific. And then you, Jeremy, are going to be in on the post-game analysis, right?
Me and Garrett Gonzalez are going to recap the show. We're going to figure out what brand it's going to be on, but you can either find us on here or the Wrestling Observer YouTube. More than likely here, but it's possible. And then we will be back a week from today, same bat time, same bat channel, to recap all of Junior Sakura and Sakura Genesis and all the fallout from there.
And we'll be previewing Windy City Riot as well from Chicago. So getting into a very busy time. It's going to be very exciting. Hopefully we'll get some best of the Super Junior news too. So I don't think we're going to be hurting for content next week at all. So
no, we're into the prime time now. It's time to talk about the big boy stuff.
Yeah, and Benkin mentions I think they do have work filling up the red belt scene in Stardom if Tamu retires, because I'm really curious who is next. Yeah, I'm guessing with Tamu you have Sayori Anu, you have Poi, and Micah's always in the picture, so that's always something to consider. All right. Enjoy the wrestling, everybody. There's great stuff everywhere you look. So enjoy that. We're on the build up to WrestleMania. We've got an AEW pay-per-view. Stardom is coming up on one of their biggest shows. So stick with us, Fight Game Media Network. We've got it all covered. So for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking Strong Style. We will talk to you again real soon.
Later, guys.